What's up, you all? Welcome back to another fun-filled show. I'm your host. He is Blanchard, aka Free Blanche, aka Blanstradamus, aka Blanchy Kruger, formerly known as B Diddy before the Diddy thing happened. So I can no longer be B Diddy. Anyway, um, today's title is Bad Behavior. Stephanie Diane Brinson. Now, she was the lady that was killed in prison. She was doing a conjugal visit with her husband, and he ended up killing her. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to give my take. I'm going to ask you all's take. But let's just read story. Second woman is strangled during an overnight visit at California prison. Stephanie Dowles died while visiting her husband, who was serving a life term for murdering 4 people, the Amador County District Attorney said. The family of a woman who died of strangulation during an overnight visit with her husband at a California prison is questioning why a man convicted of murdering 4 people was allowed to have family visits. Stephanie Diane Dowles, 62, who also went by the name Stephanie Brinson, was killed in November, making her the second person in a year to die at Mule Creek State Prison in Ione during a family visit, according to the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. The other victim, Tiana Thompson, 47, who was strangled during a family visit, Amador County District Attorney Todd Reeby said in an interview Monday, the man she was visiting has been charged with murder in connection with her killing, Reeby said. This is a very tragic case. This is a very tragic case. It's very tragic and it's very sad, but I believe that we can learn from this. I often talk about bad behavior. And I talk about bad behavior often. Hold on, let me change this title real quick. I kind of want to edit this. I wanted to change this title, but I may have to change it later. I may change it later because I really want to just change this name. Yeah, I'll wait later. I talk about bad behavior, and bad behavior makes you believe that there's not going to be a consequence, because bad behavior usually is done incrementally, meaning that we do these little bad behavior things along the way, but we get away with it. And so it gives us the illusion that there's not going to be a consequence for this bad behavior. And for all of us, there's going to be a bill that comes due. Just how it is. You know, in the Bible, we believe in seed, time, and harvest. That in the Bible says that God cannot be mocked. For that which a man soweth, that which he shall also reap. And that's a very important scripture, because it says that God will not be mocked. Now, why do you think it says that God will not be mocked? Why do you think it says, be not deceived, God will not be mocked? For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. But he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. The reason why that scripture is powerful, verse 8, is because the way it starts out, and it says, be not deceived, for God will not be mocked. So that means there is a deception into making us believe that we can mock God. Well, Blanche, how do you mock God? By believing that you are going to do something and get away with it. So in other words, I'm doing something in the sight of God that I believe I won't be held accountable for. There's a reason why it says, be not deceived, for God will not be mocked. For that which a man soweth, that he shall also reap. So that means a lot of people are running around thinking that what they planted in the ground isn't going to reap a harvest, good or bad. You know, there's folks that do good and think it won't, you know, it won't manifest either. The title of the video says, why would she marry a man who is serving 4 life sentences? That's what everybody's going to ask. Everybody's going to ask, well, why would she marry a man that is serving 4 life sentences? Now, when I was growing up, there were a lot of women I knew, even in my family, they used to love writing these dudes in prison. These dudes in prison were sending them artwork, letters. I mean, you read some of them letters, them dudes be spitting so much game. And these girls would post the letters on the wall in their bedroom, post the pictures. I saw it my whole life. It is very common in California for a woman to be dating a man in jail. It is very common in California for a woman to be dating a guy in prison that she met while he was in prison. That is very common. It's a normal thing. And so the question is that should be asked, why would a woman want to date a man that is behind bars? That's the question I have for you all. Yes, and there's a popular show, Love After Lockup. But my question is, why would a person want to date a person that is incarcerated? Can somebody please tell me? What would make somebody want to date somebody that's incarcerated? Paul said insecure. Okay. Tierra said foolish. Okay. Anybody else? JV Chanel said that man can leave and she can do what she wants without consequence, so no consequence. Calvin said ignorance. Don't have to be accountable. Yeah, Quay, them jail letters. You remember them jail letters, Quay. You know, not saying you did it, but you know what I'm talking about. Duke said, when I was in prison, inmates with that much time were not eligible for conjugal visits. Well, it is California. California is woke. People fought for this. People said the prisoners should have rights too. The prisoners are just like us. So, you know, people fought for that. Somebody said captured audience. She has a captured audience. Somebody said low IQ. desperation, not godly, like the attention, low self-esteem, no better options, mental illness, easy pickings. So we got insecure, foolish, no consequences, ignorance, don't have to be held accountable. You have a captured audience, low IQ, desperation, not godly, likes attention or like the attention, low self-esteem, no better options, mental illness, and easy pickings, low value. So my question is, obese, not attractive, immature, not attractive, obese. So out of all of you all, what you all said, how much of that is controllable? Now we know that mental illness may not be controllable. We know that low IQ may not be controllable. But besides those two things, everything else is controllable. Meaning, what you all are saying is that the reason that she picked a man in prison, it wasn't good. There wasn't a good reason as to why she picked a guy in prison. There wasn't a good reason. So my take on the situation is that when you engage in bad behavior for your life, and I'm not saying bad behavior is in you're out there selling your body in the streets, or you out there selling drugs. I'm talking about bad behavior, simple things like talking loud in public, overuse of profanity, watching things you shouldn't be watching, talking to folks you shouldn't be talking to, sleeping with folks you shouldn't be, things that are in the confines of society that won't be seen as necessarily bad enough to land you in jail or prison. You're not breaking any laws, but it's still bad behavior. And why is bad behavior detrimental? Because the bad behavior makes you believe that you're not going to have a consequence. This is why God judges the heart, because many people are going to say all types of stuff. You look at a person from surface value, you don't know what they're doing, but God knows. But the Bible also tells us that the issues of the heart come out of the mouth. So when we're talking to people, oftentimes they tell us what's going on in here. The same thing that God judges is what people let us know is in there by what they say. Bad behavior is how you say something. All that rolling your neck, bad behavior. Talking loud or some bad behavior. Over talking somebody, bad behavior. These are all things of bad behavior. And most folks will say, well, that's not that bad, Blanche. I'm telling you that the bad behavior makes you believe there's no consequence because you're getting away with a whole bunch of small incremental things. So then when it comes to something big, guess what? You've already conditioned yourself to do what? To think that bad behavior is okay. I'll give you all a prime example. There was somebody that I guess they tried to hook me up with this person, and I went out with this person. Now I went to this person's place before we went out. So we hung out before, then we went out, and then we went back to her place. I ended up leaving, but But we spent about at least 8 hours together. So in my mind, I surmised that, you know what? I noticed some things that, Now, we were with her friends. So I got to meet her close friends. I got to meet her friends. We was all hanging out. And I looked at her friends, looked at her. I said, So anyway, so that evening, they wanted me to stay over there that evening. They wanted me to stay over there, spend the night, slumber party. I'm like, I ain't really feeling her. I'm just gonna go ahead and just go home. But so I kind of talked to her after that, but I wasn't really feeling her. But I knew, because I saw bad behavior. I saw her friends and I saw her, and I saw her friends acting how they act, but then I saw her not acting like her friends. I said, well, wait a minute. If you really acted like this, you wouldn't be friends with them. You don't make it like, so I'm looking like, no, this ain't her sister. Anyway, I don't want to spill too much because folks might be listening and getting mad. But anyway, long story short, the person was asked about me, and she didn't have anything positive to say about me. I guess she feel like I either dissed her or ghosted her or whatever. Do you know this young lady ended up pregnant with a married man's baby? This woman presented herself to me a certain type of way. After I didn't, quote unquote, get with her, shortly after, she's pregnant by a married man. Now, why do I bring that up? I bring it up because this is what bad behavior does. Bad behavior is not something that is bad over here and is good over here. No. Bad behavior makes you believe that there is no consequence. And I got enough sense to know if your friends are acting like this and cutting up, then I know you the same way, because you wouldn't hang with them. Now, you can say, well, Blanche, you judging. You can say I'm judging. I'm telling you, I notice bad behavior. And I know if a person engages in bad behavior and they think it's okay and they think it's cute and they think it's okay and they think it's cute, when they do that, I know it is a recipe for disaster. And sure enough, shortly after, she is pregnant by a married man. Do you think she's ashamed? Do you think she was ashamed that happened? Of course not. Do you think she felt bad? Of course not. You know why? Because she's okay with bad behavior. Being okay with bad behavior it's almost impossible to reverse it. It's almost impossible to reverse that. I'll give you an example of bad behavior. Genesis 3. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, We shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. So I want you to pay attention. Eve was told that not only should she not eat the fruit, but she was also told she wasn't even supposed to touch the fruit. Pay attention. Eve knew that she was not only to not eat the fruit, but she also knew that she was not to touch the fruit. So Eve has clear instructions to not eat the fruit nor touch the fruit. This is what Eve is telling Satan. This is what Eve is telling the serpent. She's telling him this. So nobody can say that Eve doesn't know what's going on. Nobody can say that Eve is in the dark. Nobody can say that Eve does not know what's going on. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Pay attention. Pay attention. Eve was deceived, right? But what everybody misses is deception is tied to desire, because you're being deceived on something that you want. You are being deceived on something that you want. So Satan tells her the first thing he does is he removes the consequence, because Satan knows if I remove the consequence, then I know she's going to listen to part two. So part one, I say, listen, you're not going to surely die. Think about somebody's mind. What you mean? Listen, man, you're not going to get caught. Huh? Listen, I got it all worked out. My boy works on the inside. I got a girl, she work on the outside. You're not, listen, it's foolproof. We can't get caught. It's all inside. When you remove the consequence, that's what makes the person act bolder. That's what makes the person sin. Is the removing of the consequence. This is why Satan said, ye shall not surely die. So let's get that off the table first. The enemy is clever. So then he says, for God doth know that in the day that ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. So the reason why God doesn't want you to eat the fruit is not because it's bad, but it's because God doesn't want you to be a God like him. So in other words, God is just hating. Keep in mind, Eve told the serpent what she couldn't do, and Eve also told the serpent her consequences. So not one time in this conversation is Eve lost or confused on anything. But the question is what is Eve's desires? And when people are deceived, it's because of their desires. A person is deceiving you based on something that you desire. They're not deceiving you with righteousness. They're not deceiving you with honor. They're not deceiving you with moral and principles. They're deceiving you with something that's a hidden desire that you haven't checked. And so when Satan told Eve that she can be like God, watch what happened next. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food and that it was pleasant to the eyes and a tree to be desired to make one wise. Listen. And when the woman saw the tree and that it was good for food, and when she saw that it was pleasant to the eyes, and she saw the tree as something to be desired to make one wise. This is where the revelation comes. This lets you know that prior to her talking to Satan, she wasn't even thinking about the tree. But what was a desire in her heart? To be like God. You see, even though she wasn't thinking about the tree, even though she wasn't thinking about the fruit, in here, she was thinking about it. In her heart, she was thinking about it. Because when Satan tells her, you're not going to die and you can be like God, now she looks at the tree and now she sees that it's good. And the same with Adam. Adam wasn't messing with the tree either. But when he saw Eve eat the tree, fruit, and he saw she didn't die, well, that's all he needed. You see, when we get deceived, there's already something inside of us that is calling for the deception. This is how Satan works. Satan is not going to trick you with something you don't want. Satan is going to trick you with your own desires. But even in you being deceived and you being tricked, you still know, like Eve knew, like Adam knew. They still knew because God told them. Way before they met the serpent, God told them what to do. So now we fast forward.
Post this because I look.
Now we fast forward to Stephanie Diane Brinson, or Stephanie Diane Dowles. Maybe she was married. And this is a tragic case. Beautiful woman. Dowles, a hairdresser, was killed while visiting her husband, David Brinson, 54, who was convicted in the 1990s of murdering 4 men during a robbery and sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. After Brinson called prison officials at 2:04 a.m. on November 13th to tell them his wife had passed out, officers immediately began life-saving measures and called 911. A spokesperson for the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation said, but Dowles was pronounced dead a short time later. So let's go to this video.
I have doubts if I'm going to post this because I look so bad. But if there's somebody out there and you've done a lot and you know you love people, you know you do, search your heart. Ask God to help you heal from whatever that is that's hurting you, because you have to love everybody. You have to truly love. And I think that if we fall in love with Jesus, really fall in love with him, the worst of enemies can't hurt us. I've seen people have testimonies where somebody killed their child and they prayed for that person's soul.
Good morning, everybody. It's me, Stevie. It's my birthday guest, and I just want to say thank you to everybody for all the wonderful text messages this morning and the birthday wishes on Facebook. I'm very excited about this day. I'm going to have a great day. In fact, this whole year has been the best year I've had consistently for 12 years. I'm so happy. So thank you for everything, and you guys have a great day too. Thanks. Bye.
This is the story of Stephanie Brinson, a 62-year-old grandmother who was strangled and killed while having an overnight, conjugal visit with her convicted murderer husband at a California prison. Her husband, David Brinson, who was convicted for killing 4 people in 1994, met her while he was in prison, married her, then killed her during a conjugal visit.
Listen to this. The death of a woman at a jail in Amador County while on a visit is now being investigated as a homicide. It happened last Wednesday at Mule Creek State Prison when 62-year-old Stephanie Diane Brinson was visiting her husband. He's an inmate there.
What led to this crime and what led this nice woman to a convicted killer? Let's find out.
Beautiful lady, seems to be a wonderful person, but there is bad behavior somewhere. How do we know this? Because she married a man in prison for the rest of his life, convicted of killing 4 people. He executed 4 people. I know it's bad behavior because bad behavior makes you believe that there's no consequence. The Bible says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Why do you think fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom? Because you have to know that what you do matters. There's going to be a consequence. This is why bad behavior is really anti-God. You have to know that bad behavior is going to have a consequence. So for this woman to think that she could marry a guy and be in close quarters with him by herself, and this guy's been in prison since the 90s, for her to even think in her mind that it would be even safe for her to be with that type of individual, it's bad behavior. We can't see the bad behavior, but we know for her to marry a man like that, that is a series of bad behaviors, because she thought in herself, this action right here is not going to cause me any problems. Yes, Goddess Navi, she thought it wouldn't happen to her. And that's what bad behavior does. It makes you think that you're special. That's what bad behavior does. It makes you think that you're special. That's what it does. I can do it and get away with it. I can do it and nothing happens. I'm covered by the blood of Jesus. I'm covered by the blood of the Lamb. No hurt, harm, or danger can come to me. No enemy can prevail against me. I'm good. That's not how it works. That's not how that works. This woman was in the free world, and she chose to go open up her temple to a demon. This guy has been deemed by society as to never be in society again. That's a very bold thing to do, to say that this person can't be with regular people anymore in life. This guy right here is a threat to society, and he will always be a threat to society. So that means during his trial, during his, nothing they saw said that this guy's going to change. And clearly we see that he didn't. But this woman chose to remove herself from God's grace, to remove herself from God's covering to remove herself from just being safe, period, to go put herself in a room with a man that is obviously a psychopath, obviously a sociopath. And people are going to ask, why would she? No, she did marry him. She married, they were married. They were married. I'm just talking about the physical safety aspect of it. How are you comfortable in a room with a man that has been in prison for almost 30 years? What makes you that comfortable? Is it Jesus? Is it faith? It's bad behavior because you don't believe there's going to be a consequence. You're saying he wouldn't do that to me. He loves me. Let's continue.
Breaking news, 4 months after a woman died while visiting an inmate at Mule Creek State Prison, we've learned her death is now deemed a homicide.
The Amador County coroner tells KCRA 3 investigates she was strangled. Investigative reporter Lizzie Meacheri is here with what she has uncovered. Lizzie.
Curtis, we've been following this story for several months, waiting to hear from the coroner, all after learning 62-year-old Stephanie Dowles from the Los Angeles area died at Mule Creek State Prison in Ione on November 13th at about 2 in the morning. Her family tells us she was visiting her husband, 54-year-old David Brinson. He's been in prison since 1994, and court records show a jury convicted Brinson of 4 counts of murder, and he was sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. But he was allowed family visits. The CDCR website tells us those happen in private apartment-like facilities on prison grounds and can last about 30 to 40 hours. So it was during one of those visits that Dowles died. We know she was a hairstylist and a small business owner, and she was very close with her community in Southern California. So now, while the coroner has ruled Dowles' death a homicide, the prison says its investigation is still ongoing, and the district attorney's office tells us it has not filed charges against anyone because it's still waiting on that criminal investigation to be completed. Back to you.
Lizzie, have you had a chance to speak with the family?
Yeah, we have. They're obviously very upset about this, and they have questions about whether these private family visits should have been allowed.
Okay, we can say that these family visits shouldn't have been allowed. But the issue is that this guy was taken away from society. So that means the only way he can get access to anybody is if they volunteer. That's the only way. He is literally locked away from society in a maximum security prison. The only way he can have access to anybody on the outside is if they volunteer. Now, am I saying that her intentions were bad? No. Do I think she's a bad person? No. But do I think that she engaged in bad behavior? Yes. Because somewhere along the way, she believed that this wouldn't be a consequence to her. I'm gonna tell you right now, if a man is in prison, ladies, then don't date him. He's in there for a reason. Well, Blanche, you got to give people a second chance. You got to, ladies, if he's in prison, don't date him. Don't marry him. I don't care what they tell you. Rehabilitation, don't marry him. Don't date him. Don't talk to him. Don't put any money on his books. Because 9.9 times out of 10 is not going to end well. "9.9 times out of 10, it's not going to end well." Because contrary to popular belief, it ain't the system putting black men in prison. They out here on the streets terrorizing us, and they getting locked up. So word to the wise, if you date a guy in prison, it's not going to end well. I don't care what love after lockup tells you. I don't care what your friends done told you. I don't care what family done told you. That's an anomaly. 9.9 times out of 10 is not going to work. Right. The women prison guards do it. You see, a woman's weakness is her ears. This is why I tell you ladies to not even entertain these men. Because your weakness is what you hear. Just like with a man's weakness is what he sees. This is why pornography is so big for men. It's visual. This is why pornography ruining marriages. People have to go to pornography rehab. Because a man's weakness is what he sees. So ladies, knowing that your weakness is what you hear, you can't even entertain most of these men. But one half is telling you, you know you shouldn't date him. And the other half is telling you, girl, turn up. You only live once. Live your best life. You done paid your dues. If Kamala can do it, you can do it. Your spirit is telling you, you know he's not the right kind of guy. You know he's locked up. You know it's probably not going to work out. That's going to be one voice, though. Your spirit going to be one voice. When Satan is over there talking, it's going to be a crowd of people talking to you. You're going to hear Kamala. You're going to hear Big Mike. You're going to hear you're going to hear Cardi B. You're going to hear Meg Thee Stallion. You're going to hear all of them. Attractive woman. Seems like a great person. Everything going for her. Let's continue. It's sad. It is truly sad.
Giving like-minded person.
62-year-old Stephanie Dowles was always trying to help others, her mother, Ovita Wilson, says.
I would often tell my sweetheart, you can't save the world.
Dowles was a mother herself to 2 sons, grandmother to 6. She was a hairstylist and a small business owner in the Los Angeles area, known to her family as Stevie. We spoke to them on Zoom.
Stevie was literally the glue that held the family together,
making her loss all the more difficult.
We were just devastated.
Dowles died during an overnight visit with an inmate at Mule Creek State Prison in Ione just before 3 a.m. last November. Now, 4 months later, the Amador County coroner confirmed her family's fears, finding the death was a homicide. The coroner says she was strangled.
How could they just, let this happen and just don't get it?
Armand Torres says the prison should be held accountable. He says his mom was visiting her husband, David Brinson, there.
They would read the Bible together. He was in school in there because she was pushing him to try to be this better person.
But Brinson is serving 4 consecutive life terms with a 20-year determinate sentence on top of that, without the possibility of parole.
I'm going to tell you all right now, ladies, it is not your job to go into some prison and try to help these men do nothing. I'm just being honest with you. I'm just being honest with you. The level of game these prisoners have is 1,000 times more than the guys on the street. So you putting yourself in that position to be in prison like that, you're setting yourself up for failure. These guys in prison, they're poets, they're authors, they're lawyers, they're philosophers, they're charmers, they're everything that's your weakness. These men in prison are everything that is your weakness. And the only way you're going to want to test it out is because you're okay with bad behavior. Because you're going to think that you're different, you're special. That's what bad behavior does. I can keep doing these things and get away with it.
All after his 1993 conviction of 4 murders.
My mom was just left alone, and she, called for help, I'm sure. And there's nothing she could do.
Officials say the criminal investigation is still underway. So as of now, no one's been charged with Dowell's murder. But it happened during a family visit, which the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation website describes as a visit in private apartment-like facilities on prison grounds that can last approximately 30 to 40 hours.
Broski Bear said if a man is in prison, a real man won't want her to come see him. You see, the problem is that you ladies are getting your information about men from other women. You're not talking to righteous men learning about men. You're learning about men on the fly. That means you're picking the guy, he's probably going to be the wrong guy, having a bad experience, and you're learning from that. When you're talking to other women who've had the same bad experiences and y'all come together, you come up with conclusions. And I can almost guarantee y'all going to be 100% wrong. What Broski Bear said is true about a man. If the man really was an honorable man, he wouldn't dare have you come see him in a prison. If he was an honorable man, there is no way he would even subject you to that. He would not subject you to come down to a California state prison facility and have sex with him on prison grounds. He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. So imagine her in this room with this guy for 30 to 40 hours. Now listen, I've known people that have the conjugal visits. I got family members been in prison. I got it. I know it. I know it. I do. But I'm saying, all that Bible you reading, all that prayer you're doing, all this time you spending with God, you can't make me believe that the Holy Spirit didn't warn her about this. You can't make me believe that the Holy Spirit did not warn this woman about this. You can't make me believe it. You can't make me believe that the folks around her didn't say something to her. You can't make me believe it. I guarantee she got many of warnings before we got to here. The Bible says that God always gives us a way of escape. Quay said, if the man is honorable, he won't even call collect. I wish I had a plate to pass around. Broski Bear said, if the man was an honorable man, he would not have her come visit the prison. Quay said if he was an honorable man, he wouldn't even call collect. Y'all women are learning about men from your own poor choices, and it's a bunch of other women that made the same poor choices. You don't know how an honorable man thinks because, for one, you would probably never dealt with one, and for two, you ain't even got sense enough to even ask. If a man was honorable and he was in prison, he wouldn't even bother you. How about that? If a man was honorable in prison, he wouldn't even bother you. Because I'm serving a life sentence, I won't even subject you to that. I won't even subject you to that. Come on. Now everybody mad at the prison. Everybody mad at the prison. Everybody mad at the demon. They mad at him. They mad at the prison. But who is nobody mad at? This man has nothing to lose. And I'm going to say this again. Don't y'all ever date somebody that has nothing to lose. Don't do it. Whoever you decide to date and marry, you make sure they got some stake. They got some stake in the game. You make sure they got some stake in the game. Let's continue.
It was just after 2 a.m. on November 13th when CDCR says Brinson used the phone in that apartment-like facility to tell officers his wife had passed out.
Given the history that this guy has already, we kind of just, wanted to know how is it even, possible for them to be unsupervised.
The CDCR website shows inmates blocked from those privileges are limited to those on death row, those convicted of sex offenses, those going through the reception process upon arrival to a prison, or anyone under disciplinary restrictions.
So if you're on death row, you don't get it. If you're convicted of a sex crime, you don't get it. If you're in the reception process, you don't get it. And if you're on disciplinary restrictions, you don't get it. Everybody else is fair game. Paul said this family should have stopped their mother. And this is what I mean. This is what I mean. Kanye West, why is your mother going to get plastic surgery? Kanye West, why is your mother being told by doctors that she's too old to get plastic surgery, and then she still goes and gets plastic surgery? This woman has 6 grandchildren that love her. She has 2 sons that love her. She has family that love her. She has friends that love her. She has a church that loves her. She has a community that loves her. She has customers that love her. She got all these people depending on her. You know what she does? She decides to go marry a demon. Everybody's mad at the demon. Everybody's mad at the prison, but ain't nobody looking at her. She's the one that has something to lose. Not the demon, not the prison. She did. To whom much is given, that much more is required. So that means when you got all these folks that love and support you, you don't have the same leeway as these other people have. Because to whom much is given, that much more is required. So you don't have the luxury of going and marrying a guy in prison serving life. oh, they read the Bible together. Clearly, they didn't. Or they used to read the Bible and pray together. Clearly, they didn't. Clearly. God will not be mocked. And it's tragic. And it's sad. And you're going to say, Blanche, you victim blaming. You call it what you want to call it. She had 2 sons. She had 6 grandbabies. That's 8 people counting on her to be around. Not to mention mothers, siblings, community, friends, other family. So we can be mad at the demon. We can be mad at the prison. But the prison did what they were supposed to do. He's behind bars. The judge and the jury did what they were supposed to do. He's behind bars. Society did what they were supposed to do. He can't come out here no more. Everybody did their part in this situation. He was locked away from society forever. Everybody did their part. Everybody. And it's tragic because I'm not even saying that she meant wrong. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I'm not even saying that she meant wrong. But I am saying that if you entertain a man that's in prison, you're engaging in bad behavior. You're engaging in bad behavior. And bad behavior makes you believe that there's not going to be a consequence. That's all Satan wants you to do, is just think there won't be a consequence. That's all. You're going to do the rest. Once you're convinced that there won't be a consequence, trust me, you will do the rest. You're going to go out there and test every limit. Could you imagine how people would act if they couldn't die? How do you think somebody would act if they were given the gift of immortality? What do you think a person would do if they were just granted the gift? You know what? You're going to live forever. They would act a complete fool. They would act a complete fool.
There's no mention of multiple murder convictions.
Do you think like that policy should change moving forward?
It has to. There has to be something has to be done because it's not fair.
CDCR says inmates have to meet strict criteria for these family visits, like sustained good behavior, for example. And they say the visits are meant to support family connection and rehabilitation. And Dowell's family did say that she had visited Brinson several times before this, and those visits seem to have gone well. So they say at the time they didn't really think much of it, like they now believe they probably should have.
See what I mean? Now, she was going to see him before. Who was saying don't do it? Hindsight is 2020, but y'all are her family. Who was saying mama don't do it? Who was saying we don't support this marriage? You know, you got a right as a family member or a friend to not support the marriage. You don't have to support it. How many people disagree with the marriage? How many people said, mama don't do it, granny don't do it, daughter don't do it, sister don't do it, friend don't do it? Hairdresser, don't do it. How many people told her don't do it? How many people said we are not going to support it? This is what I mean. Everybody wants me to tiptoe around this. I'm not going to do it. Because somebody needs to know that bad behavior is going to have a consequence. And her blood is on you all's hands. I said it. It's on the mother's hands. It's on the son's hands. It's on the family's hands. It's on the friend. Y'all should have came together. It's on the church hands. It's on the pastor's hands. It's on the choir's hands. It's on the usher's hands. It's on the deacon board's hands. It's on the deaconess's hands. It's on the finance committee's hands. It's on the Sunday school. Her blood is on everybody's hands because y'all should have came together because y'all love her so much and told her no. Y'all telling me she's so wonderful and she's so great and she's so loved, but nobody said no. I won't allow it. How many of these folk was praying for her up at 6 a.m. praying for her? Who was fasting in prayer to make her change her mind? Who was doing it? Nobody. You know why? You know why? Because deep down inside, most people are okay with bad behavior. And bad behavior makes you believe there won't be a consequence. Because you keep getting away with it, so it seems. He didn't kill her on the first conjugal visit, or the second conjugal visit, or the third. He waited. He waited till she was good and comfortable, good and relaxed. Don't have a care in the world. You all don't have enough in you to battle with Satan. The Bible says, resist the devil and he will flee. We should not be engaging with Satan. The Bible says, resist the devil. When you hear the pastor talking, I wish that devil would come up here. We gonna run. No. You can't defeat Satan. You got to resist the devil so he can flee. You ain't supposed to be engaging with the devil. Resist. So that means when that man's in your ear talking that good game, you got to resist. When she in the VIP section throwing it at you, you got to resist. You got to resist the devil and he will flee. Most of you all would not have experienced a fraction of the trauma you've experienced in your life if you had just resisted. Said, you know what? No, I'm good. Let's continue. It's sad. It's sad and it's tragic. And I know I'll be made out to be the bad guy, but it is what it is. It is what it is. I have another case that I want to look at. You all remember this case. You all remember this case. Remember, remember, let me find it. I think it's, Remember the guy that killed his wife? Remember the guy that killed his wife? His name is Chris Watts, and he killed his wife, Shannan, and his 2 children, Bella and Celeste. Remember? Remember that guy? You might remember that story, the Watts murders? Well, it was a case where this guy, you know, he had a family. He ended up killing his wife, his 2 daughters. His wife was actually pregnant, so he killed his whole family, killed everybody. And he had a mistress. I guess his goal was to kill his family and start over. Very tragic story, very horrific. You know, I've been studying this case for the past. I watched it before, but I've really been doing this last week. And I wanted to get, no, not the wrestler. Yeah, Miss Goldie knows about the case. Leatherface knows about it. Most of y'all should know about the Watts murders. And it was just sad because his wife, Shannan, had a very active social media. So basically their whole life was on social media. She showed you every day. It was like she was very active on social media, and she was known. Now, what I remember was when they got the house, their house cost, I want to say, over $400,000. And right after they got the house, a couple of months later, they filed for bankruptcy. So that was kind of odd. I said, okay, I just put that in a back side note. Yes, there is a documentary on Netflix. Yes, it is. He worked for an oil company. Yes. Y'all remember the case. So I found a video. Like I said, I've been deep diving into this case, but I found a video of her talking about when she first met him. And I believe that there is always a teachable moment in these tragedies, things that we can actually learn from. We should be able to learn from these things. Even though we mourn these tragic events, we also should be able to learn so that we can learn how to navigate away from these things and help other folks get away from these things. But and in both of these cases, these women were well loved and well liked. So these women's death really hit the community hard. It really did. I mean, it's tragic because you see these women and you're like, it's just horrible. But I saw this video of her describing when she first met him. And what I saw here was a very valuable lesson. Very valuable. It's invaluable what she says in this video. So I'm gonna go to it.
I was never the smartest kid on the block. I worked my tail off to fight through school. And I was the one staying up to 2 o'clock in the morning studying and still struggling. I'm a horrible test taker. Horrible test taker. I can know all the answers, but put that test in front of me and I bomb it, or I struggle. And I've never given up. A lot of you know my part of my story, my health challenges, bad relationships, things that could have knocked somebody down completely hardcore. But the thing is I believe that everything in life happens for a reason. And I also believe people are placed in our life for a reason. And I remember when I went through something major in my life, good relationship, gone bad. And I remember coming out feeling the weakest I've ever felt in my life. Like I was no good. I wasn't good enough. My insecurities got deeper, stronger. And I felt like I was not worthy of anything. Through that, I've met so many people in my life that helped me through all of that, helped me build my confidence, helped me. You just have to surround yourself with people that want better for you, just like they do for themselves. And if you do that, like you're on top of the world when you have people that you surround yourself with that make you better. Like they don't bring the bad out of you, they bring the good out of you. And from that point on, I fought like hell. I worked my tail off. I busted my butt. I was never a big dreamer, so to think, because my insecurities brought me down. But I remember when I was single for a long time, and my goal was to buy a house. I was tired of paying someone else's mortgage because, that's what you do when you rent. And I wanted to buy a house. And I wanted to buy a house that I could resell one day and make a profit off of.
So already you see Shannan as a go-getter. She's a hard worker. So you see some great character attributes in her. She's in a relationship. And she's with a guy and he made her feel, less than, low self-esteem. And so when that ended, she felt bad about herself, but she's a fighter. So she bounced back. She fought. Like she said, she wasn't a good test taker. She had to stay up extra to study. And again, this is a woman of character. Now, somebody mentioned no God. We can get to that. But just from a surface level, this is a woman of character, meaning that she is you can call her a strong woman, a strong person. And so goal orientated. She's at a young age. She said, I want to buy some property and flip it. So she knows what she wants. And again, this is commendable because of how young she was and her humble beginnings. And so I always admire people that believe in hard work, that aren't lazy, that don't make excuses, because again, she could have made excuses with her failed relationship, with the way she felt, all this, but she didn't. She kept fighting.
And so I worked and worked and worked and worked. I lost a lot of friends because a lot of my friends were still young. We were still young. And I was 25 years old when I built my first house. My family doesn't come from money. We always worked hard for what we had. And I did. I bought my first house at 25 years old. And that was the biggest accomplishment I felt I've ever done because I did it by myself. I did it by working my tail off for it. And I had that to show for it, and then I met Chris. My health challenges happened. I was diagnosed with some health challenges, and then I met Chris. I met Chris because of those health challenges. My friend sent me a friend suggestion for him. It was actually his cousin's wife. And I deleted it. I was like, I'm not interested. I don't want to meet a guy. Bye-bye. So I deleted her friend's suggestion for him. I was diagnosed 2 months later, and I went through one of the, I would say, darkest times of my life because things just got scarier, worse. I thought my life was crumbling underneath me, and I didn't know which way to turn. And I got a friend request from Chris. I was in a really, really, really bad place. And I got a friend request from Chris on Facebook. And I was like, oh, what the heck? I'm never going to meet him.
So Shannan was thick too. Don't get it twisted. She was thick. So I want to think about something now. I want you to think about what we just caught about her as a woman, and what type of man do you think would be good for her? Based on what we've learned about Shannan, what do you think, what type of man do you think would be good for her? We're going to get to it, Tierra. Based on her being strong-willed, based on her being a fighter, based on her being a hard worker, based on her wanting to get goals accomplished, what type of man, Vic said a photographer. Neek said, that's funny, Vic. Neek said, equally ambitious. Okay. What type of man do you think she would need? I mean, yeah, great attributes. We can take away gender. Great attributes for a person to just be this focused at such a young age. You know, this is not, she's taking her prime years and having focused goals. This means she ain't going out partying. And she said she lost friends trying to get that house. And she got it, though. Quay said a carpenter. Miss Cat Sinclair said a simple man who wants to be respected. No, I'm not going to say that, Quay. The Winning Walk with Christina said, a man's man, a strong leader. Tierra said an equally strong man. Paul said a God-loving man. So her initial friend request that was sent to her, she said she didn't want to date anybody. She rejected it. She just deleted it. Then Chris sent her a friend request. Now, what did she say when she got Chris's friend request? Listen what she said.
Really bad place. And I got a friend request from Chris on Facebook. And I was like, oh, what the heck? I'm never going to meet him. Except, well, one thing led to another.
She said, what the heck? I'm never going to meet him. So why not? Now, keep in mind, she's in a vulnerable place because she got diagnosed with something. And so she's in a dark place. So I want you to just keep this in the back of your mind, that her initial first mind was to not date Chris. Her initial second mind was to not date Chris. But she accepted his friend request, but her goal was still not to date him. Let's keep listening.
And 8 years later, we have 2 kids. We live in Colorado, and he's the best thing that has ever happened to me. And because of my health challenges, because I got so sick, I let him in. And he only knew me at that time. He knew me at my worst, and he accepted me.
Notice what she said. She said, because I was sick, and I'm gonna rewind it and let this screen go bigger. She said, because I was sick, I was vulnerable, I let him in. That means in a normal situation, he would have never had a chance. In a normal situation, he would have never gotten a shot, because before she got sick, she saw the friend request suggest for him. She looked at it and said, I'm good. Let's keep listening. Keep listening. So let me rewind a little bit. Let's keep going.
And he's the best thing that has ever happened to me. And because of my health challenges, because I got so sick, I let him in. And he only knew me at that time. He knew me at my worst, and he accepted me. And, you know, through your vows, like through sickness and everything, he's been there. He was the one that let me lay on him and fall asleep for 3.5 hours on his lap while he had to pee. He is the best thing that has ever happened to me. So with that being said, know that no matter what, and I can go on forever with this story, but I want to cut it short so I don't bore you guys. Know that no matter how hard life gets, no matter how low you feel, know that deep down, in your heart, that there's a purpose, there's a reason for everything. We may not understand it at the time. It's hard to understand it at the time. I'm telling you, when I met Chris, I pushed him away. I gave every excuse for him to run. I mean, I gave him an out every single day. I gave him an out. And if you guys know my story with Chris, you know I gave him an out. I mean, he went to my colonoscopy. I tortured him. I rejected him. I pushed him away time and time and time again. But when I canceled dates last minute, because that's how life is with my health challenges, you cancel things last minute, and it's hard for people to get. It's hard for me to understand. But he stuck around, and he stuck around because he was the one for me. And
here we go. So she said that he stuck around because he was the one for me. Now, this video caught my attention because women think that the guy that would stay through all of this is the good guy. I'm telling you that the guy that would stay through all of this is not the good guy. Either he does not value himself or he has nefarious intentions, because no self-respecting man is going to go through all of that. He's not going to do it. He's going to oblige you. You're going to tell him, listen, I'm pushing you away out, and he's going to say, you can have it. So the fact that he stayed throughout all of the rejecting, all of the torturing, all of the canceling of dates, all of the appointments, all of the sickness, even to the point where she said he had to pee one time, and he let her sleep on let her sleep on him because he held his pee. That's not a good man. That's not a good man. Everything that she put him through, she was doing from a nature standpoint, because she was rejecting him. And she had cause to reject him because why? Because he wasn't the guy, just from a surface level, he wasn't the type of guy that she wanted. But she was sick, may have been low self-esteem, may have been all these things. But deep down inside, she knew he wasn't the one. I saw a video one time of her, and she was filming him as he was working out doing push-ups. And y'all gonna think I'm crazy. When I be seeing certain things, people think I'm nuts. When I be seeing certain things, I can just tell the way she was filming him. It wasn't like she was filming him like, this is my husband. She was filming him trying to figure out, is he really the one? It wasn't a filming of, I'm proud of my husband. It was a filming of questioning, like, either why did I pick this guy? Is it because I'm telling you now, everything she did initially says that he wasn't the guy. But because he stuck around through the storm, women think, okay, he's the guy. And I'm telling you women right now, any guy that stays when you all got him jumping through hoops is not the guy for you. Because the guy that you need is not going to tolerate that. He's going to set a standard. He's going to say, I understand that you are sick, but you still got to respect me. He gonna set a standard. I'm going to play it again what she said. Leatherface said they hated each other. Well, I wouldn't doubt it.
Was the one that let me lay on him and fall asleep for 3.5 hours on his lap while he had to pee. He is the best thing that has ever happened to me. So with that being said, know that no matter what, and I can go on forever with this story, but I want to cut it short so I don't bore you guys. Know that no matter how hard life gets, no matter how low you feel, know that deep down, in your heart, that there's a purpose, there's a reason for everything. We may not understand it at the time. It's hard to understand it at the time. I'm telling you, when I met Chris, I pushed him away. I gave every excuse for him to run. I mean, I gave him an out every single day. I gave him an out. And if you guys know my story with Chris, you know I gave him an out. I mean, he went to my colonoscopy. I tortured him. I rejected him. I pushed him away time and time and time again. But when I canceled dates last minute, because that's how life is with my health challenges, you cancel things last minute, and it's hard for people to get. It's hard for me to understand. But he stuck around, and he stuck around because he was the one for me. And he is amazing. And I can't tell you how wonderful he is. All of this comes from all of this positivity that I'm sharing. My 2 children are because of all of this. All of this. My health challenges happened for a reason. I was told I couldn't have kids, and here I have 2 amazing, crazy, wild children I love dearly. And everything happens for a reason. So if you're at a place where you feel, Dieter, you feel like life's standing on top of you and attacking you, write down, this is homework for everyone. And I do this all the time because I have to life happens. So write down all the things that you think are bad in your life, all the negative in your life, write it down. But then I want you to also, on the other side of the paper, write down what has happened in your life that you're grateful for. The third step is take a pen and mark over, connect the 2 things that happened. So, for instance, health challenges, Chris, Mandy, life, right? I can write that I can connect that life health challenge to Mandy. I can connect it to Chris, and I can connect it to everything else that happened because of my health challenges. So do you see what I'm trying to do here? I want you to connect the negatives with the positives in your life. And when you look at that, life becomes so much brighter.
And so he ended up killing his whole family. And the reason why I brought that video up is because she said that because he endured all of those things, that meant he was the one for her. But think about what she was basing it on. She was basing it on how much he could take. She wasn't basing it on how well he could lead. She wasn't basing it on his character. She wasn't basing it on him setting a standard. She wasn't basing it on his self-respect. She wasn't basing it on any attribute a woman should be looking at when it comes to a man potentially being her husband. She based it on how much he could take. Do you understand where I'm going with this? Do you understand that no self-respecting man is going to put up with it, and he shouldn't? Because you acquiescing to a woman like this it puts her in the driver's seat because the relationship is now built on how much you can take. Now, again, this guy could be a narcissist and psychopath, sociopath. He can be all these things. But I'm telling you, ladies, that just because a guy can put up with you doesn't mean he's your husband. Just because you can test a guy and he endures all the tests doesn't mean he's your husband. That is a flawed selecting system. It is. It's flawed. Either the man is a beta and doesn't value himself, or he's a psychopathic killer. Neither one of them is good. The man you need, ladies, is not going to jump through hoops for you. The man you need is not going to play your game. He's not going to do it. He's not going to do it. He's not going to let you try to push him away every day. He's not going to let you torture him. So the moment you're with a guy and he allows you to do these things, that should be a red flag. It's no different than the type of guys that, like for women, they pay the women to be the dominatrix. Where she digging her high heels into his scrotum, whipping them and beating on them. It's a certain type of guy. It's a certain type of guy that will put up with all of that for years. How long did they date? He put up with this for years. Should have been a red flag. Always follow your first mind. And her first mind was, not him. Because the type of man that she needed a God-fearing man. She needed a man that was going to set a standard because she was on the right path. Like, she had all the tools. All she needed was that God-fearing man, was that righteous man. That's all she needed. And instead, she got what appeared to be a beta cuck simp, but turned out to be a person that would annihilate his whole family. And he was cheating on her. That girl Figgy said, isn't she a red flag? She could be too. She could be a red flag too. She absolutely could be a red flag, because to even torture a guy like that instead of just not dealing with him, because she could have just not dealt with him. So it's something to say about her character to even put him through all of that. And then put him through all of that and then say, you know what, okay, now you qualify. I don't know. They shouldn't have been married. It's the Watts family murders. It's the Watts family murders. No, he didn't snap. He didn't snap. He was premeditated. He didn't snap. It's just, you look up the Watts family murders. You can look it up on YouTube. Right, Vic, it's not uncommon. So my point is, it does speak to her character to that she would even put him through all this when she could have just said no. But she was vulnerable. So part of her wanting someone to be a companion, but then at the same time, not wanting him to be a companion. So you get the best of both worlds. You kind of like, you friend zone your stress, your stress pillow. So, you get to lay on him, you get to call him and cry, but the moment he demands something from you, I don't want to do that, I'm gonna push you away. So it says something about her too. It does. Now, keep in mind, folks gonna take what I'm saying is like she deserved to get murdered, and she didn't deserve to get murdered. I'm saying they shouldn't have been married. And I guarantee if I could talk to her deep down inside, she knows it too. But because she's a fighter and she's not a quitter, she's going to want to make the marriage work. That's just her personality type. She's not a quitter. So she's going to want to make it work. But I guarantee if she could do it all over again, she wouldn't have married him. And I'm telling you, I saw that video where she was filming him doing push-ups, and all I could see was her filming him. But I just felt, my spirit told me it was almost her looking at him in almost contempt and disgust. Like she wasn't looking at him with pride. No, she wasn't. She was filming him like this little, I don't know. It's just what I felt. Christina says she all but said it herself. She did, though. She didn't want to be with him. And I'm not saying that's why she died. That's not what cost her life. What cost her life because he's a psychopath, narcissist. But I'm saying initially she didn't want to be with that man. She didn't. I believe she wanted a life. She wanted a big house, a nice house. She wanted a nice lifestyle because she grew up out of life. I get it. She wanted the lifestyle that she probably saw on TV. I get it. Trust me, I get it. But I'm saying how they got together, it wasn't honorable. It just wasn't. And I'll tell any of you ladies right now, Figgy says she a narcissist too. Listen, Figgy, I'm not denying that because she could be a narcissist. She very well could be a narcissist. She could be. Because I'm telling you, this initial getting together process, there's no way she respected him. And I tell the women this all the time. It's better for you to respect and honor the man than it is for you to just love him. Because just loving the man, if you don't respect and honor the man, you're going to torture him. You're going to torture him. And I can tell by the way she described this initial story, she didn't respect him at all. She didn't respect him at all. I can tell she don't respect him. She didn't respect him. But y'all check it out. It's the Watts family murders. It's very tragic. It's very sad. But when I watched this video, I said, Broski Bear said two psychos form a union. The end result is going to be bloody. Vic said, did she love him though? It's possible she didn't. When I listen to this story that she tells, I honestly, if I had to make an assessment, I believe that he was a prop. You know, she wanted the house, she wanted the family, she wanted the dog and the picket fence. He was just a prop. She didn't respect him. She didn't respect him. And again, if you even think about it, she even said she tried to push him away every day. She gave him every excuse and she tortured him. She did everything but stop picking up the phone. Think about that now. Think about her doing everything but not talk to him. It's something to say about that. It's something to say because think about it. If I as a guy did that, what would women call me? If I had a woman and I was telling her that I was pushing her away, I was torturing her, I was making her go, like, what would people say about me? They say he was a narcissist, he's a bad person. Like, it will be all these things about me. If I did what she did to a woman, I will be everything bad in the book. You know? Anyway, listen, I love y'all. And that's it for today's show. You know, we will be back on Probably Thursday. We'll be back on Thursday, y'all. But listen, y'all. Y'all got any questions? I don't ever ask that. But y'all have any questions before I go? You may have any questions. Thank you, KB Sales. I will be called an abuser. Thank you. If I did what she did, what she described as she did to him, I would be an abuser. You would have nothing good to say about me. What was your question? Thank you, Figgy. What was your question? Yes, Miss Reed. She was testing him. She was, right? But testing him, why? You're testing him because you feel he doesn't qualify. The only reason women test men is because they feel that he don't qualify. We see all the time women liking a guy just on the way he looks. So women ain't into the business of just testing guys they like. Women test the guys they don't like. They make the guys they don't like jump through the hoops. They run the guys they don't like through the ringer. They torture the guys they don't like. So yeah, she was testing him because he didn't measure up to her. She didn't really like him. She wasn't feeling him. And she tried to give him every excuse to go, but like a little parasite, he wouldn't go. He wouldn't go. Because he was getting some out of it too. Yeah, man. I mean, I go to all her appointments with her. I'm there for her. She cries. I'm not gonna leave her, man. I look like he's doing it too. And he ended up killing her and the children. It's possible, Miss Reed. That's why I mentioned her sickness. She could have thought that nobody else would want me. But then again, did she really, if she's pushing him away? I don't think she really wanted him. I don't. But I think at the time, he was the most sane choice. I got a guy here that worships the ground I walk on. I'm probably not going to find a guy like this anywhere else out there. He's going to take me in through sickness and health, and we ain't even married. Like, yeah, I'm going to stick with him. It makes sense why she picked him. But, yeah. No. So, yeah, I'll be back on Thursday. Oh, yeah, a call-in show. You know what? I would do a call-in show. Actually, you know what? I got to figure out, how can I do a call-in? So I got to figure out. How can I do a call-in? Or maybe I can do inviting people up is tricky because it'd be some weirdos coming up. Maybe a call-in. Maybe I can do a call-in. Thank you so much, Figgy. I might do a call-in. Would you consider doing a call-in show? There are phone apps where you can get a 1-800 number for free. You know what? I might do a call-in. I don't know. I'm going to check that out. I'm going to check it out. Broski said, drop a StreamYard link. Rashawn said, not before Brides of Boaz. That would be awesome. Call-in show. Thank you, Goddess Navi. Thank you so much for moderating tonight. Quason, I'm calling you. That's funny. Yeah, I'm slacking. Thank you for that. I'm actually look that up about the call-in. I'm going to look it up tonight, actually. I'm going to look it up tonight. Thank you, Figgy. Listen, I love y'all, and I will see you all on Thursday. Thank y'all so much. I love y'all.